What's up? It's ADR back with ADR's Premier League review. I wanted to go ahead and say thank you guys for subscribing. I know you haven't subscribed yet, but you're going to after this video, so let's get after it. What I want to do is bring you an American, giving you some Premier League analysis and just world football analysis in general. A lot of the stigma with Americans is we don't know football. I'm here to crush that stigma. I played professional football at lower levels. Unfortunately, COVID ended my career, but I think COVID messed up a lot of people. So we move. It is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and bring you some of the games this weekend. We'll go ahead and start you off basically from the top, right? Liverpool versus Brentford, 7:30 here in the U.S. That's when it started. Yes, I was up bright and early for that. Full disclosure, I am an Arsenal fan, so we will make this unbiased, but you'll hear some biases here and there, and some banter. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the YouTube banter because a lot of it just seems like it's not analysis nowadays. I'm here to give you more of a player side breakdown while also giving you coaching side, because I've done coaching as well, and do plan on doing that in the future. So let's get right into it. Liverpool versus Brentford. I was a bit hopeful with this, hoping that my man Ivan Toney could come out here and crush some of Liverpool's dreams. That did not happen. Liverpool came out nice and sharp. Nunez looking world class. That finish was top notch. I gotta give it to him. Jota with the header into his path. That is just a thing of beauty. As I said, I'm an Arsenal fan, but Jota is just one of the most clinical players to me. Very technically sound. Nunez has all the facets to be a world-class player. Sometimes he does have bozo gene, though, let's be honest, right? But the man has skill. That chip was class, that shows it, right? I was really hoping he was going to trip over a shoelace or something, but he didn't. But the thing is, that put it up 1-0. Liverpool went into halftime with that 1-0 lead. I felt like Liverpool dominated. Brentford had some opportunities to come with some counterattacks, but unfortunately they lacked the quality. Liverpool in the second half, once Jota came out and Salah came on, honestly, the game just completely changed on its head. Salah, being one of the best players that the Premier League has ever seen, did what Salah does. Gets an assist, gets a goal, puts it up to 3-0. Then Ivan Toney gets it back to 3-1. Part of me gasped, and then Gakpo comes in and puts it 4-1. So there's that game. Nice smooth transition from, coming back. I think Salah looked very sharp. I think he was on his P's and Q's. I think Jurgen Klopp waited the perfect amount of time to put him back in there. I was hearing some rumblings that he was doing trainings. I wasn't sure if he was going to be fully fit, if he was going to play 10-15 minutes, but he was able to come in there and make an immediate impact. Now we move on to Arsenal versus Burnley. What a thrashing! We got to go out here and let everybody know Arsenal is here. We are here. I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but we're here. My personal opinion, I do think it's either going to be Arsenal or Liverpool that win it. I will tell you when we get onto the Man City subject of the reasonings of why. But as you guys can all see, there is a big difference between how Arsenal played in the beginning of last year and now transitioning into the new year, as opposed to last year transitioning into the new year. Arsenal started off very fast last year. Youngest team in the Premier League, yada, yada, yada. Excuses, I don't really care about that. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We say that we're the youngest team, but guess what? We're the reasons we're the youngest team, because guess what? Our recruiting department made us the youngest team. So that's not an excuse for me. Right? Again, yes, we were on top of the league, 95%. I know I hear all the banter. Yes, I get you. But I could care less about that because we're into 23-24 season. Arsenal are looking a threat. First 5 games of the calendar year, check marked off. Let's get after it, right? Arsenal go in there. We make ourselves very known in that first half. 2-0. We could have had some opportunities to put it to bed a little bit earlier. Trossard with a complete whiff. He's coming in looking extremely sharp, keeping on with his goal scoring and assisting record. He has that quite a few under the first, I believe, 100 minutes. He's up there with Thierry Henry and some other Arsenal player with being that consistent player that every 90 minutes you're going to get something from Leandro Trossard. $25 million steal. 25 million pounds, I should say. Steal. Right? So then we go into the second half. Bukayo Saka does what he does. 3-0, right foot, top corner. Even me growing up, I played striker. I played striker even at the professional level. And that is a known thing when you're inside the 6-yard box, cutting in on your weaker foot, near side. If you're going to go near post and you're that close, shooting high is always the way to go. Keeper can't react that high. And you're trying to really aim shoulder height and above. Hard for keeper to get his arms here. Right? So that is textbook from Bukayo Saka. I know the huge rumblings lately have been, is Saka world class? I personally don't think so yet. I do think that the plane above me is really going to bug me, but it's okay, right? We move, right? So this is production. We're phase one. We're going to get there. We're going to get everything zoned in for you guys and make sure that it's smoother than this, but it is what it is. You're here now, so you might as well keep listening. So then we go on, and I'm going to skip past the fourth goal, Leandro Trossard, beautifully left-footed finish, but we're talking about Kai Havertz here. We're going to call him Donkey Kai. Not saying he's a bad player. Apparently that's his favorite animal, and that's what he goes by in practice. I don't know why. That's the worst nickname that I've ever heard in my life, but that's what we're gonna go with, right? And this man scored the 5th goal, right? Little Meg side foot action with the weaker foot, you gotta love it, right? I don't know what, honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, that Burnley keeper looks like he's about 18 years old. He's probably not. Very, very little experience, didn't look very commanding in his box, but that's Burnley's problem, not Arsenal's. But we put 5 past them, 11 in the last 2, I believe 21 and only 2 let in the last 5 games. You can't tell me that Arsenal isn't purring, and I cannot stop this segment without mentioning Martin Odegaard. This man is absolutely class. I don't think that Arsenal have world-class players yet, but we do have players that have the ability, and if Arsenal can make a push in the Champions League this year and continue on with the Premier League run that we're having, I do think that we can start calling these players world-class. I do think so. Martin Odegaard has been playing a further back role this year. I don't know. I know I've heard a lot of people say he doesn't have the same numbers as he does last year. His role is completely different this year. He's starting to transition a bit more further forward as Declan Rice is becoming his own in that position. As you can see, Martin Odegaard is coming back to help control the games. This man is just looking silky. It looks like he moves at his own pace. And to do that at the Premier League speed, we know you must be special. His link up with Bukayo Saka and Ben White now transitioning into the midfield since Sidney has been injured is very smooth. Ben White looking phenomenal again at his best. I've heard rumblings of him playing some of the season with some injuries. I don't really care. If you're on the pitch, you should be playing. And he was lackadaisical, I believe, in the beginning half of the season. And now he's starting to pick it up. I think a lot of our players are starting to find form. We move on. I wasn't able to watch this game. Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Let's just go ahead and start that with that, right? Our rivals, they played Wolves. And a couple things I do want to break down if we're being completely honest. The way that Tottenham play is very, very entertaining. I do think that the problem is their recruiting. I think that I know I hear a lot of Tottenham fans complaining about Daniel Levy. I do think that his ability to transition Tottenham to what they were prior to him being here, he should get credit for. But I do think that if he has any hand in the recruiting process, it's just not there. I do think that the style of play that they have is very, very good. I think that they leave too many gaps within the midfield, and they play quick, and so they'll catch you off. Their front three, obviously, Heung-min Son is very, very class. South Korea, man is just, I mean, he's been doing it. He's been doing it when Harry Kane was there, and now he's doing it without Harry Kane. You can't deny this man's quality. Kulusevski, very, very high quality as well. Where Charleston finding form as well. Their front three is dangerous, but the problem is yes, I hear, Tottenham fans are sitting here saying we have injuries, we have injuries. Everybody in the Premier League has injuries, so I don't care about that crap. Okay, let's be completely honest here. You guys need to adjust based on your personnel, right? And that is something that Ange is going to learn. This is first season in the Premier League. I'm not going to knock the man. He's in 5th place right now. You guys are just slightly behind Aston Villa. So I think that the biggest thing is that you guys consistently play how you want to, and then you really need to focus on your recruiting. Just because the players that you're transitioning into the plays or the playing style that you have just doesn't resonate well enough. And I think once Ange is there and he's able to, it takes time, by the way, guys. It takes time for a player to understand exactly what the manager wants to do. It's easy to just play your game, especially as a striker. I want the manager to tell me go all out attack. But it usually comes in phases, right? So right now he's working on their playing style, and then I'm sure over the summer he's going to work on defensive structures and things that they should do as secondary options. As you can probably see with Manchester City, just the top teams in general, Manchester United when they were winning all of those trophies, they had consistent different ways of playing depending on personnel that they have. You can't just play the same way, and I do actually applaud Ange for his first season doing that, because you need to let the players know you're not playing around and playing games. when it comes to your style of play. And then over the summer, with different training camps, you're able to implement different styles that you can switch to implement what he wants to in his training camps. So, it's going to take some time for Spurs. Again, I know I started off with a bit of banter, but honestly, Spurs are very fun to watch. Now let's get on to Wolves a little bit. Wolves, I swear, this team has always had very high quality players. I think their players are just missing that bit of magic at the end of the pitch to make them world class. But the good thing about it is that their style of play and the individual players they have make them a threat. I think that if they had a bit more about them, where Gary O'Neill was able to have this group of players for a little bit longer and make some additions, they really could have a good opportunity to make top 6. They are very, very threatening on the counter. I know I want Arsenal to get Pedro Neto. This man is absolute class. Even after his injuries, you think that he's going to take a bit of a step back? No, he comes back after it. And then I don't know if anybody noticed his celebration after the second goal. This man's stone cold, ready to get back after it. He's not satisfied. He's ready to move on. That is a player that is ready for a big move and at a big club and knows his worth, knows he's ready to move on. So from that, we're going to transition into Man City versus Chelsea. Manchester City are going to win 15 games in a row. They're just going to go. Everybody should just knock off the league. I don't want to hear this anymore. Okay, I've been trying to say this. I'm not saying Manchester City are not going to win the league. But man, can we have some competitive spirit within the fan bases? And I don't believe that the players are feeling this way. But if we're being completely honest here, how I've been hearing the fans say basically the league is done, Manchester City is going to just win every single game. They never just win every single game the rest of the season. Honestly, even last year they dropped points at the end of the season. It's going to happen at stages. The problem is Arsenal just didn't have the juice. We had injuries. I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but if we're being completely honest with you, we had injuries that did drop our standard from what we were playing. And again, Arteta didn't have those different playing styles, as I was speaking on with the Spurs. That helped, right? But now we are developed into different play styles, so I think that this year we do have a better chance. But Manchester City, in my opinion, I think that the lazy analysis has been a little bit frustrating, because even against Everton, it was very obvious to see Manchester City's running out of ideas, right? They're very high quality players, but what teams are starting to do now is clog the space within the midfield and close their defensive lines and their midfield lines. So Manchester City doesn't have a chance to play in between the lines. And even if they're playing one-touch passing, teams are clogging that space. So you see Manchester City, even Kevin De Bruyne yesterday was on the right-hand side the beginning of the game, first half. He floats, yes, but he's finding more gaps, and then, second half he shifts over to the left-hand side. He plays more on the wings, it's seeming like. What he's doing is obvious because, Erling Haaland is the man, the myth, the legend, the robot, right? Man, Premier League record, not taking anything away from him. Missed 2 sitters yesterday. Normally that doesn't happen, but thank goodness it did, right? So we're perfectly happy with that. I have a friend who's a Chelsea fan. Me and him are actually going to start a podcast, and he was saying to me before the game that we can get after Manchester City. They leave gaps. They don't drop off as far as the other teams. So that gave Chelsea the counter-attacking football that they're able to play to get ahead of Manchester City. Manchester City, when they pressure everybody up, they leave Kyle Walker back there, or they'll leave Ruben Diaz back there and say, you guys man the fort. But if they're playing against a better team, that's going to be a bit more difficult. Chelsea, I think that their players sometimes don't play without brains, but it's okay. I think that the problem is, even for example, I think Enzo Fernandez and Nicholas Jackson ran into each other, or Enzo Fernandez took the ball off of Nicholas Jackson's foot, pissed off Nicholas Jackson. As a striker, that would piss me off as well. I think it ended up being offsides, but just stuff like that. You can tell the camaraderie isn't completely there. Just with teams that have been seasoned with each other, those type of things just don't happen. I do think that Pochettino's, and me and my friend did have a conversation about this, shout out Rex, we did have a conversation about this, where he thought immediately that the subs were too negative. I was saying, they could, I think that I see what Poch is doing, but they ended up being too negative. I see what Poch was doing trying to save the game. I think he got a bit too scared of Manchester City. The biggest thing that people need to do is go toe-to-toe with them. Not toe-to-toe in the sense of possession and things of that nature, but understanding that you can stay in your shell, and then when you're attacking, that's when you go toe-to-toe. right? That's when you expand, you come at it fluid, you come at it with different angles, different runs, multiple people trying to create space against that back line of Manchester City, who tends to push up to halfway and sometimes be about 10 yards off the halfway mark, right? I think that the substitution of Raheem Sterling for Nkunku, I think that really dropped you guys off. Nkunku really didn't impress me. I know he's coming back from fitness right now. You know, he had a long-term injury. But I do think that if you're going to play 30, 15, 20 minutes of a game, you need to be putting in a shift as if you're playing 90 minutes. You're getting paid the highest amount of money to put in a shift. I saw Nkunku too many times letting Ruben Diaz and letting the center backs Akanji and things of that nature progress the ball way too easily. That just can't happen if you're trying to be a consistent top 6, top 4 team. But they have room to grow. We're going to go ahead and move past that. But again, what I've been saying is I don't think that City is as fluid as everybody keeps making it out to see. And if we're actually analyzing the games here, City have been looking like they are out of ideas. They are crossing the ball a lot more than they have. The individual brilliance isn't coming as easily as it used to. Teams aren't backing off of them as they used to. They look vulnerable on the counterattack. Now, yes, I understand Stones was out. Look, one player shouldn't make that big of a difference. And honestly, you guys are trouble winners, so I don't really want to hear those excuses, to be completely honest with you. And with the last game that I will touch on, we have Manchester United today versus Luton. The biggest thing about this is Rasmus Højlund, man starting to find form. 6 goals last 5 games. I think the biggest thing for me is Manchester United just don't look like Manchester United. Erik ten Hag, I just don't know if he's ever, and you know he said this, I don't know if he's ever going to play that style of play at Ajax, and I just don't understand why. You know, that's not for me. I could really care less, to be honest with you, from Man United's perspective. But as a neutral, I do think that it's a bit saddening that Manchester United played at such a high level for so many years with so many different styles of play and so many different cutting-edge players coming through that now, I mean, they're getting outpossessed by Luton, 59 to 41%. Luton had 22 shots on target. I mean, are we serious right now? This is Manchester United. And I'm not discrediting Luton, so please, Luton fans, don't think that. But we're talking about the most popular team in England, if not the world. This is unacceptable. If we're just talking about from a strict footy sense of this, Manchester United should be dominating Luton in one of the aspects of either shots or possession. At least let me see some flows of play, some intricacies, some different styles. But we're seeing very methodical. I mean, they scored in the first 7 minutes and then Luton came back in the 14th minute. And basically from there, Manchester United was getting shots off, but did it really look anything promising as to what they should be doing? Rasmus Højlund again is carrying them. Carried them in the Champions League. Thank God they got knocked out. But he carried them in the Champions League, and now he's starting to find his form. I love seeing strikers find their form. I don't care what team you play for. The world is lackluster of strikers, so it's really nice to see him come into his own, especially as a young man. And so that goes with that game. Last thing I'll touch on is the league table. Right now we have Liverpool sitting at 57 points, Arsenal at 55, Manchester City at 53, then Aston Villa with the great win, 2-1 against Fulham, Fulham being resilient and resolute as they normally are. As you guys probably know, they beat Arsenal. Still really upset about that. That game bugged the crap out of me. But it is what it is. Ollie Watkins with another 2 goals. This man has gotten slander thrown at his name, and honestly, since the first time I saw him, I personally liked him. I liked his grit. I like the way he plays. He's very good with both feet, and he's light-skinned. Let's be honest. You gotta like the light-skinned brothers, right? So they are here with 49 points in 4th place, so that's very good. Tottenham, 47 points in that 5th spot, and then Manchester United 44 points. I did hear some Tottenham fans on the Football Terror. Shout out to Terry Flowers on the Football Terrorist. He hosts a great show. Honestly, one of the inspirations of why I wanted to start my own channel. Shout out to you, Terry. Hopefully I can get on there one day. But just continuing on, I heard Tottenham fans say there's no chance that Manchester United could catch them. I'm very, very confused by this because if I'm not mistaken, there's 12 to 13 games left in the season. Actually, I think everybody's on 25, so about 13 games left in the season. They can very easily catch Tottenham. I don't know where this big-headedness came from. Manchester United's at 44 points, and Tottenham's at 47. This could very easily do a swing into that regard of Manchester United catching Tottenham. So I don't know where that narrative came from. And I'm just going to really cover the top 6, maybe sometimes the top 8, but we're not a charity here. So if you're not top 6, it is what it is, my man. Get better. Find a different team. Jump on a bandwagon. I know most Tottenham fans jumped on the Manchester City bandwagon because you guys don't win anything, ever. Nothing. So, you know, I understand that from that perspective. But, you know, in that regard of Manchester United catching Tottenham, I think it could happen. I mean, Manchester United, even last season, was able to make a push at the end of the year. And Erik ten Hag has a weird way of being able to find results when his back seems like it's against the wall. It doesn't seem, even with Chelsea, I know a lot of Chelsea fans were saying Poch out, but it at least looks like the players are still fighting for Pochettino, right? That's one of the biggest things as a player that you want to make sure, like, if you don't like your manager or your coach, you really just stop running on the pitch. I've personally never done that because you get paid to do your job. So it doesn't really matter if you like them or not. The results will speak for themselves, and you just buy into whatever manager is really managing you, and then you just go from there. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. That was the first show of this channel here of ADR's Premier League Review. There is a lot more content coming your way. We're going to be covering the Euros. I'm going to be continuing on through the Champions League and even the bigger games, so it's not going to be all Premier League related, but that is the main premise of this show. I do appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe, comment down below on the best section that you liked. We will be releasing some shorts as well, so keep an eye on that. I'll be releasing some shorts with my skills so you guys can still see I got it. You guys have a good one. Tune in next time.